Live from KSAT 12, the News at Noon starts right now.
We start this noon with big news about those tariffs President Donald Trump signed into action yesterday. There's now an agreement to pause tariffs on goods from Mexico, but only for a month while the two nations negotiate.
Well, the tariffs were set to go into effect at midnight, along with tariffs against Canada and China. Those are still set to happen. And
now people are wondering how this will affect them. The stock market today already opening more than 300 points down. So first, let's go back. Over the weekend, the Trump administration announced major tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. Then the leaders of all three of those countries announced their own counter tariffs.
Well, Canada ordered tariffs of 25% on American imports starting tomorrow, and that includes beverages, cosmetics, and paper products.
The second list of goods will be released soon, including bigger products like vehicles, more consumable goods like dairy and produce. Mexico hasn't detailed their tariffs, but as we've said, those are on pause for now.
And all of this is in response to Trump using emergency authorities to impose 25% tariffs on Canada, with a lower 10% tariff on Canadian oil and gas. Eventually, Mexico may face 25% tariffs as well.
And we're zooming in on that because that could affect things like avocados and tomatoes. 91% of avocados and about 87% of tomatoes come from Mexico.
And China also hit with 10% tariffs on top of those already in place from Trump's first term. 85% of all toys in the U.S. are made in China.
So why is all this happening? President Trump argues the tariffs are necessary as a response to the flow of migrants and drugs across the border, including fentanyl coming into the U.S. These are claims that all three of those countries reject.
This is retaliatory to a certain extent. Millions of people flowed into our country through Mexico and Canada, and we're not going to allow that.
Well, President Trump campaigned on a promise to lower prices for Americans, but economists warn this could have the opposite effect.
We may have short-term a little pain, and people understand that.
Businesses will pay the U.S. government a higher fee when their shipments enter at the border. Now, President Trump is already in talks with Canada and is expected to have another discussion with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau later this afternoon. And we want to know what you think about this. So we posted a poll on social media. What are your questions and concerns about these tariffs? Join the conversation right now on Facebook.
Well, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth in the Lone Star State today. He's in El Paso meeting with military members of Joint Task Force North who are working to crack down on illegal immigration along the U.S. and Mexico border. Friday, the Pentagon announced it is preparing to deploy around 1,000 troops to help Border Patrol agents. Now, Hegseth said the Defense Department will, quote, support the territorial integrity of the U.S. southern border. He said he will call up reservists, National Guardsmen, and active duty personnel to help with that mission.
It doesn't make financial sense. That's what San Antonio's city manager says about keeping the Migrant Resource Center open.
Well, he and other city leaders announced today that they are in the process of shutting down the facility on San Pedro Avenue, which had been open for more than 2 years.
Katrina Weber is live at City Hall, where a briefing on that subject wrapped up just a little while ago. Katrina, it sounds like money is the big issue here.
Well, that is the bottom line, but there are some other numbers at play, specifically the number of people who are going to that center seeking shelter each day. The Migrant Resource Center first opened back in July of 2022. It was the city's way of housing people under one roof after they arrived en masse from other countries. And according to city manager Eric Walsh, had taken to sleeping in the airport and downtown parks. At the height of the arrivals, Walsh says anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400 people were showing up at the center each day. Now, he says times have changed drastically.
No longer necessary and no longer needed. We've seen a marked decrease of individuals transiting through San Antonio. And I think we've seen about an average of 12 over the last week per day.
Says currently there are 88 people inside the facility, which can house more than 700 people. The federal government has been reimbursing the city for the cost. Still, Walsh says it doesn't make sense to keep it open. The city is taking the first step in closing it by not accepting any new arrivals at the MRC. Then eventually it will close its doors for good. Of the 88 people who are there right now, Walsh tells us that 68 of those people already have their travel arrangements laid out. He says that once the others are taken care of, the center will shut down, and he says that could happen as soon as the end of the week, if not sooner. Reporting live at City Hall, Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
All right, Katrina, thank you for that live report. Looking out there with live cam, very sunny, 71 degrees. It's warm. Looks like springtime almost.
It certainly is going to feel like spring for this first full week of February. It's a little bit of a different picture out there right now compared to what we saw just a few hours ago. The humidity has certainly made its return too. You likely noticed that earlier this morning we had the low-level cloud cover and even some patchy fog that managed to develop across portions of the area. Let's go back outside though and take a look at some of those current conditions because of that sunshine that is quickly taken back over here in San Antonio and many locations across south central Texas. Temperatures are starting to warm up very quickly. We are already at 73 degrees here in the Alamo City. It's 76 in New Braunfels. Check out Seguin, 77 right now. Low 70s across portions of the Hill Country, specifically in Bernie and Kerrville, both sitting at 72 for your lunchtime temperature. Mostly sunny skies will continue into this afternoon. Notice how your high temperatures respond. 82 the forecast high temperature in San Antonio. For context, our average high is 65, so we're about 15 to almost 20 degrees above that this Monday. We'll be in the mid-70s by 7 p.m., gradually falling into the upper 60s later on tonight. So that's really going to be the big story this week. Feeling very spring-like with high temperatures in the low 80s expected each and every afternoon. The humidity sticks around as well, which will lead to additional daily rounds of some patchy morning fog as well as the low-level cloud cover. If you're looking for a little bit of relief and more of a February-like feel to return, our next cold front currently looks to move in early Sunday. That could bring with it some cooler temperatures. So I'll get you a look at all these details and time out the week ahead coming up a little bit later on.
All right, thanks, Mia. See you soon. New details this noon in a north side shooting this morning. Police now tell us the suspect and victim confronted each other before the shots rang out. This all started early this morning on Patricia Drive, not far from West Avenue. San Antonio police say the suspect showed up to a home to confront the victim and his girlfriend. When they did not let him inside, that's when things escalated. Officers tell us the suspect fired shots at the victim's patio, shattering a window. Those shards hurt the victim, but he should be okay. No one else was hurt, and police say the suspect took off before they got to the scene. At last check, they still had not found him.
Well, Governor Greg Abbott delivered his State of the State this weekend, and he covered a lot of ground, from cutting down on property taxes for homeowners to passing a school voucher-like program. And the state's security is also a top priority, putting San Antonio in the spotlight. Well, he is establishing a state cyber command center that would run right here in San Antonio and play a big part in protecting Texas from cyber attacks. Now, other topics in his state address included property tax relief, investment in water, school choice, and teacher pay.
To increase teachers' average salary to an all-time high, I'm declaring teacher pay an emergency item this session. We must reward the best teachers by putting them on a path to earn a six-figure salary. More than 25,000 teachers are already on that path. We must expand that merit program to every school district in the entire state.
Well, the governor delved into many topics last night, and right now on KSAT.com, there's an article on our website that goes in depth and explains all of the topics.
New at noon, Floresville ISD is considering moving to a 4-day school week for the 2025-2026 school year. According to the district, a survey revealed 68% of staff, students, and parents are in favor of the change. District officials say the change would help retain and attract quality teachers, boost student well-being, and maintain strong attendance for both students and staff. The Board of Trustees is set to get a final calendar proposal and make a decision in March.
Well, with the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo just days away now, you can't have any activities without a little dirt. Well, our Devin Karp got to see an inside scoop of how volunteers get more than 70 truckloads of that dirt inside the Frostbank Center.
This is the same dirt the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo has been using since they first bought it back in 1988. There's more than 2,000 tons of it here, and it takes a lot of hard work to take it from the pile to the floor of the Frostbank Center. You ever think you'd be this excited about dirt?
Not really, but always wanted to be around this since I was a kid.
Bernie Ramirez, chairman of the operations committee for the rodeo, says it's a team effort of more than 70 trucks and many more volunteers to get the rodeo floor ready.
Basically, it's put where it needs to be from the beginning so that hopefully there's not too much movement of it, although it will be moved around some with these big front end loaders.
It's brought in over the course of 7 hours, flattened down with the help of some machinery like this, and filtered to be just right for animals and people.
With 86 points.
It's very important for the dirt to be consistent, for the animals to have good footing out there. You don't want them slipping. As far as the contestants go, they need to be able to have a soft landing, so to speak.
It's an effort that doesn't go unnoticed by competitors out here on the dirt. What keeps Bernie coming back year after year is knowing that it's helping people perform at their very best.
If we can put in some time out here and work our tails off for a little while, it's all worth it in the end.
The San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo kicks off on Thursday, February 6th. For more information about how to get tickets, what's going to be going on, you can visit our website, KSAT.com. I'm Devin Karp, KSAT 12 News.
All right, a local pastor making people feel at home in our city, even when they're experiencing homelessness. How he's bringing fellowship and food to those in need.
Flu cases on the rise, and local doctors are seeing more patients because of it. So who's most at risk? After the break.
And Doc Talk is happening this week, and this week we're talking with a pediatrician. Here is how it works. You scan the QR code on your screen, type a medical question and any health question that you'd like to ask a doctor concerning a child, and the doctor will be in studio answering those questions Thursday evening at 6:30. We'll be right back. Well, Texas is part of a growing list of states dealing with high flu numbers. Now area hospitals are busy with seniors, children, and high-risk patients with the flu. Dr. Jason Bowling with UT Health San Antonio and University Health says it's not just the flu, but also RSV, rhinovirus, and COVID cases that are circulating in our community. Common symptoms are the classic fatigue, muscle aches, cough, and congestion. So if you're pregnant, elderly, or have a young child who's sick, you need to get them to a doctor as soon as those first symptoms show up.
There can be benefits to getting treatment early if you're at high risk. Anybody admitted to the hospital also should be getting antiviral treatment, which is usually we talk about as oseltamivir, still very effective. And then most importantly, it's not too late to get vaccinated. Sometimes people think when the levels are high, it's too late. But we're likely going to see flu activity continue for the next few months.
So if you are not in the high-risk category, but you start to feel chest pain, shortness of breath, or confusion, then it might be time to get to the doctor.
We got there with Live Cam this afternoon. Just a little update here. We've been telling you about the city of Lytle being under a boil water notice. Well, we have an update. They have rescinded that notice. So just to keep you updated for the city of Lytle.
Good news for them. Not so good when it comes to the aquifer for today. It is Monday, kicking off a new work week, and it is down about half of a foot at 631.2. That's 37.3 feet below the February average. Also, when it comes to your pollen count for today, mountain cedar still very high, over 9,000. We're in the thick of it here as we gear up for the home stretch of mountain cedar season. The good news is molds have dropped into the low category at 450. Plenty of warmth to talk about in the days ahead. We'll get you a look at that forecast when we come back.
So January was really cold.
We
had all kinds of precipitation, snow, ice, all these things. And now February feels like spring.
Yes, like, you know, I got to set myself apart from January, right? That's right. January actually was a cooler than average month for us here in San Antonio. And February is not starting off that way at all. Take a look at your high temperature trend for the upcoming week. Not at record-breaking temperatures just yet, but we're pretty close to it. Today, we've got a forecast high around 82. The record for the day is 85. 85, the record all the way through Wednesday, will be about 5 degrees below that tomorrow and into Wednesday. then we still keep that spring-like feel into the second half of the week. We'll be pretty close to it again on Thursday. We've got a forecast high right now of 82, the record for the day 83, and also well above average. As we were talking about earlier in the newscast, the average high for this time of year is 65. We will consistently be above that by about 15 to even 20 degrees in some locations over the next several days. So let's go ahead and talk about today, because it is very warm for February standards. If you're stepping out for any lunchtime plans, 73 degrees right now here in San Antonio. It's the same in Bulverde. New Braunfels up by 35, checking in at 75. 75 as well in Floresville. 76 your lunchtime temperature in Poteet. After starting off with some of the low-level cloud cover, we had some patchy fog in a few locations, especially west of the I-35 corridor. We've already seen plenty of sunshine take over this hour, and that will be the theme into the afternoon, but that's really just going to help those temperatures crank up even more so. By 2 o'clock, we'll be close to 79 here in town. There's that forecast high temperature around 82 by 4 p.m. If you're stepping out for any Monday evening plans, still warm and muggy. You'll notice that muggy feel as well. By 6 o'clock, we're in the upper 70s. 8 o'clock, low 70s. We'll start to see some of the cloud cover build back in later on tonight, just because of all of that moisture and the humidity still in place. Here's a look at those high temperatures across the San Antonio area later on today. 83 in Converse, perhaps a few upper 70s for places like Helotes, Bernie, stretching over to the Los Maples area. It'll be 83 in Hondo and 82 in Sabinal. I mentioned that moisture. Dew points, which is how we measure that moisture here in the atmosphere, about 15 degrees higher than where we were just 24 hours ago. We have these south winds in place that have opened the door for this Gulf moisture to surge back into south central Texas. And here's the thing, that moisture is not going anywhere for the next several days. You notice on your dew point trend, they stay elevated through about Saturday. Then we see that next cold front move in. As of right now, timing's looking like Sunday morning. That will send in another dose of some cooler and drier air to kickstart next week. But in the meantime, along with that humid feel, we'll have more daily rounds of the patchy fog as well as a low-level cloud cover working back in. Notice this is 3 a.m. tomorrow morning, already starting to see some of those visibilities drop. I think that will be a possibility for the Tuesday morning drive as well. Then, like what we saw today for the areas that did manage to see a little bit of fog, those conditions will start to improve by mid-morning. And then by lunchtime, not really looking at any issues when it comes to any lingering fog, and we'll actually see some partial clearing by Tuesday afternoon with partly cloudy skies in the forecast. We have the moisture in place, but unfortunately, at least this week, we don't have a whole lot to show for it when it comes to any notable rain chances. Sure, in the mornings, when we see some of this low-level cloud cover and a little bit of fog, we could see some mist, maybe some drizzle. Won't be too much fanfare, not really amounting to anything in the rain gauge, but we could see a few changes work in on Sunday as we see that next cold front drop through the area. High pressure swinging across the state of Texas right now, but it's this low pressure system that's going to get picked up here in the upper levels. That works eastward into the weekend. It drops that cold front into south central Texas right now Sunday morning. We've got about a 20 to 30% chance to see a few isolated light showers accompany that boundary. Still not looking to total very much in the rain gauge with that round either, but notice your temperatures. Sunday could be an upside down day. We could start warm and humid right before the front pushes through. Temperatures potentially falling 30 degrees cooler from one side of the weekend to the next as we start to see that cooler air work in. So that'll be something to check back in on in the days ahead.
Very interesting. Thank you, Mia. People in the San Antonio community dedicated time and resources to help those experiencing homelessness this weekend. However, we're told it's not the last time when they'll come together again. Well, San Antonio ranks second among other Texas cities with a high number of people experiencing homelessness. We know that because of an annual survey which helps organizations and shelters understand what resources are needed most. So for most people who aren't at a point where they want to go to the resources, volunteers in the community come to them. And Rosario Oates shares how a pastor and volunteers in San Antonio are spreading love and making sure everyone is fed and cared for.
Come on, let's cry out to the Lord.
This is called the plug-in.
Jesus is here in these houses.
We plug in into one of the darkest part of the city, and we bring light, we bring hope.
Led by Pastor Jimmy Robles,
We're all in this together.
followed by dozens of volunteers, all taking the time to cook, feed, clothe, and give haircuts to people experiencing homelessness, and offer a word of praise, regardless of religion, hoping to create community.
Just to bring hope to the individuals.
If you live in San Antonio, you can see people who make the streets their home across the city. But how many people are there? Each year, a point-in-time count, or pit count, is done in cities across the nation. Volunteers attempt to count the number of homeless people in their area, but the exact number is hard to calculate. A lot of factors come into play, like weather, time of day, and people relocating. According to the Texas Homeless Network, the pit count takes place on one night at the end of January each year. This year, it was January 23rd. On that day in San Antonio, the low temperature was below freezing, an example of the tough conditions people are having to bear.
That's somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's father.
Someone's family member doing everything they can to keep warm. Still, the 2024 pit count estimate ranked San Antonio as having the second highest homeless population in Texas, only behind Dallas by a couple hundred people. Even if the number of homeless people continues to rise,
The tears are coming down.
Pastor Jimmy hopes he and his dozens of volunteers remain able to give back to the community they know and love.
When I leave here, I leave full of joy, knowing that even if it's one person, that we made an impact on someone's life. It's a blessing.
There you go, sir. It's rough out here, and not having that encouragement to have someone to encourage you to push forward is something I think we really, really need. God shows us that we can be that beacon, that light in the darkness.
While this was the first plug-in of the year, it's far from the last.
Everybody lift up your hands. Let's pray.
Pastor Jimmy says he'll continue to host these events across the city every other Saturday evening.
It all starts with building a relationship with them. That's what we're here for.
Zaria Oates, KSAT 12 News.
Now to another organization spreading love and hope. Ángeles de Fronteras is a nonprofit that's been helping cancer patients for years. And in about a week, the group is giving out dozens of wigs for free. It's happening on February 8th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Texas Oncology San Antonio. That's in the medical center. The groups are expected to fit 70 wigs and distribute cosmetic kits and scarves to cancer patients. If you do have to register for the giveaway, and we have a link to do that on KSAT.com.
Well, you might notice some relief at the pump with gas prices going down. Why? It may be short-lived.
And a recall alert that parents need to be aware of. Why Gerber is telling people to return some of its products for a refund. Now to a recall alert, a teething product that could create a choking hazard. That's according to the Food and Drug Administration. This recall affects all forms of Gerber's Soothe and Chew teething sticks. The teething sticks were sold online and in retailers nationwide. The FDA officials say the recall was started after several choking incidents were reported. The sticks came in strawberry, apple, and banana flavors. If you bought these products, you can return them to the store for a full refund.
Well, gas prices are going down in San Antonio, and according to Gas Buddy, the average gasoline price in San Antonio dropped about 15 cents last week. So that's a pretty drastic change. According to Gas Buddy, the average price for gas is $2.54 a gallon across our city today. These prices are 9.6 cents lower per gallon than they were a month ago. So compared to a year ago, prices are 36.5 cents lower per gallon, and people across the nation are also seeing lower gas prices. Nationally, the average price of gas has fallen 3.5 cents a gallon. And of course, gas prices are something that could be affected by the various tariffs that the Trump administration has promised. And right now on KSAT.com, you can read more about this story, plus where you can find the cheapest gas in the city.
Well, with this weather, you don't need to drive your car. Just walk. Walk to lunch. Like, walk wherever you can.
It's really, I mean, if you enjoy like that warmer feel, meteorologist Justin Horn, if there is one thing to know about him, he is like loving this warm weather. He does not deal with the cold.
We've been hearing it. We've been hearing all.
So this week, he is so excited for it. And yeah, get outside and enjoy it. We've got plenty of sunshine in the forecast this afternoon. Just know that it's not going to feel like what you probably would typically expect for a February day. Speaking of that sunshine, take a look at those blue skies returning as we look down from space is our satellite picture here. 73 in San Antonio. Still have a little bit of lingering cloud cover closer to the coast. But for places that really managed to see the sun pop up a little bit earlier in the day, take a look at Cotulla, up to 82 already. Same in Laredo at 75 in Del Rio, as well as Rock Springs, 74 your lunchtime temperature up in Kerrville. All of that sunshine that we have in place right now, that is going to be the theme into this afternoon. 82, the forecast high here in San Antonio. Still warm for any Monday evening plans. 76 degrees in the forecast by 7 o'clock this evening. Then gradually starting to see those thermometers fall into the upper 60s later on tonight. Now the patchy fog and the low-level cloud cover developing overnight as we sleep. So temperatures won't fall as much as what we saw this morning. We started off in the mid-50s here in San Antonio today. Will be about 10 degrees warmer for the Tuesday morning drive. Same Wednesday and into Thursday, thanks to that humidity and Gulf moisture that is back in place. A little bit more cloud cover lingering into the afternoons over the next couple of days, but generally just expect this trend of morning grayness with that cloud cover to lead way to some partial afternoon clearing. High temperatures still elevated in the low 80s over the next couple of afternoons. We'll get you another full look at that extended forecast and talk more in depth about that cold front headed our way this weekend coming up in just a few, Steph.
Thank you, Mia. Well, the 2 planned town hall meetings about the future home of the Spurs are now over, and people on the east side were able to voice their concerns. After the break, what comes next and what leaders will do with all the ideas people put forward.
Well, the future of the Frost Bank Center is still up in the air. That's if the Spurs move to another arena. But what is certain, people on the east side want their community's needs to play a part in any future decisions.
And our Devin Karp was the only reporter who made it to both planned town hall meetings about the future home of the Spurs. And he tells us what suggestions that people on the east side are making.
We need to pause things and get the citizens involved.
I grew up on Houston Street, and when they built the Spurs Arena, they made promises to the East Side community they didn't keep.
We want to see an action plan on what's going to happen.
It's been a wake-up call. That's what Bexar County Commissioner Tommy Calvert describes the town hall meetings where neighbors across the east side come together to let their elected officials know how they feel about the Spurs potentially leaving and what could become of the Frost Bank Center.
These town halls are really a reality check on the PR campaigns that are often done over these kinds of development projects.
More than 350 people have come to 2 meetings over 2 weeks to talk about the issue, partially because a lot of them say it's complicated.
There is just not enough information for me to understand which side of the fence I'd come down on.
At the first meeting in January, people focused the discussion on what to do if the Frost Bank Center became empty, with ideas like letting the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo expand inside to offer year-round classes and events, helping neighbors experiencing homelessness.
Maybe like shelter to put everybody on the streets, off of the streets, especially those with mental illness.
Even turning the area into something like the Pearl, a walkable community with food options, nature, and housing.
You know, restaurants and walking paths, and I thought that would be a great solution to this not being an abandoned arena.
But one common theme here emerged at the second town hall in February.
Things can happen on the east side.
How development could still help people living on the east side, who say they've seen growth in other parts of San Antonio, but not here.
People on the east side have to drive several miles just to go into a job, and they're working in someone else's district. You know, so they're working and they're purchasing from other districts, but yet instead nobody's supplying and bringing anything back to the east side.
So what comes next? Commissioner Calvert says officials here are going to give a policy analysis to every idea they've heard over the 2 weeks. After that, it's still a long road ahead.
Commissioners Court and the Spurs must hear these suggestions and comments. So we will make sure that there is a report where they are advised where the community is at.
Neighbors like Ken, Patrick, and Eva say they think a positive future for the Spurs and the East Side does exist. But no matter what happens, conversations need to be held out in the open.
They need to share on what's going to happen here versus what goes over there.
Because the East Side still has a lot to offer to its own community and San Antonio as a whole.
It was once very, very, very thriving, and I just think we can do that again.
Devin Karp, KSAT 12 News.
Out there with live cam this afternoon. 73 degrees for this week of the stock show and rodeo.
Yes, it is going to be a warm start to rodeo season here in San Antonio, following what was, as we were mentioning earlier, a cooler than average January. The average high, if you missed it, 58.3 degrees. The average low, 38.8 degrees. And our rainfall total just 1.14 inches in the rain gauge over at SA International, which made it a drier than average month. Now looking ahead, it is going to be warm over the next several days. We've got a small rain chance in the forecast as our next cold front moves in this weekend. We'll have those details coming up.
I think last year when we started the stock show and rodeo, we all had like coats on.
It was really cold, I think,
yes,
right?
This is always the time of year where I feel like it's a toss-up of what you're going to see, because we can start to warm things up, but it's still February, so we're not out of the woods yet. And that's the thing I think to note is, yes, this week is going to be warmer than average. It is going to feel like spring, but we're not finished with colder temperatures. In fact, take a look at this map that came in from the Climate Prediction Center. This is their 8 to 14 day temperature outlook for February 11th, valid through February 17th. So we're talking next week by this time. And you can see after a cold front moves across a good chunk of the lower 48, it's possible that, yes, parts of Texas and even parts of South Central Texas could see below average temperatures return. Still above average is what it's looking like across the deep south and closer to Florida, but a good chunk of United States real estate seeing some cooler air move in after we see this front push through the region. That is not going to be the case, though, today and over the next several days. High temperatures still consistently climbing to near the 80-degree mark or in the low 80s each and every afternoon. Still about 15 to 20 degrees warmer than the average high of 65 for early in the month. Then, though, we see that cold front move through. As of right now, timing is slated for Sunday morning. Sunday could be an upside down day depending on how all of this shakes out. We could start off warm and humid in the 60s, but then after we see the cold front push through, that cooler air filtering into South Central Texas could mean highs top off just in the 50s by Sunday afternoon, and that could carry over into the start of next week as well. So here's what that looks like just when it comes to what's happening in the upper levels of the atmosphere. We've got high pressure in control right now. That's going to swing across the state of Texas over the next couple of days. For the most part, just not a whole lot of forcing going on in the atmosphere to put some of that Gulf moisture to work in the form of rain chances. Things are looking fairly dry here this week. Then, though, we see a low pressure system that's been hanging out west. That's finally going to get picked up by the jet stream here. That's going to work eastward across the Great Lakes region by the weekend. It drags that cold front into the state of Texas. We see those northerly winds kick on, and then more of a February feel starting to move back into the region as well. So we at least have that to look forward to into next week potentially, and it's still early here, but potentially lows back in the 40s, highs in the 50s for a few days. So that's going to be something to check back in on as we really fine tune those details and get a little bit closer to the upcoming weekend. I mentioned that we also have a small chance to see a few light showers accompany that cold front pushing through on Sunday. As of right now, accumulations not looking impressive at all here in the San Antonio area. This is a look at rainfall potential over the next week. The higher of the totals well off to our northeast across portions of the Ohio River Valley, the Tennessee River Valley, and close to the mid-Atlantic states too. Still something that we'll continue to monitor. As of right now, a 10% chance for maybe a stray shower on Wednesday. Again, with some of that patchy morning fog developing, we could see a little bit of mist, a few sprinkles here and there, but it's not going to amount to very much, if anything. We'll call it a 20 to 30% potential on Sunday to see if we can't find a few light showers with that front. We need it. We desperately need rain. This is the latest drought monitor update that was released on Thursday, if you missed it. And we actually have seen extreme drought expand across the San Antonio area, farther up into the hill country, and even out west now, down the Highway 90 corridor near Uvalde, and even off to our southwest near Eagle Pass, closer to the Rio Grande. So we will cross our fingers and see if we can't find better rain chances into the middle portions of the month of February. But in the meantime, we've just got more sunshine in the forecast this afternoon. 73 warm degrees right now. We'll be close to 80 degrees already by 2 o'clock. 82 the forecast high temperature closer to 4 p.m. Slowly falling through the 70s for any evening plans, and eventually we'll be in the upper 60s later on tonight. We'll start off warm and muggy over the next several days. We're talking low temperatures in the 60s. Again, highs in the 80s with morning cloud cover leading way to partial afternoon sunshine. We'll be right back.
Well, it's a skincare routine you didn't know you needed, and it puts natural deodorant to the test.
SA Live's Jen Tobias-Drusky shares a San Antonio soap maker's routine for natural underarm care that's not the pits.
Clean and safe for every skin type. That's how Tara Hardiman, the owner of Carmel Soap Company, describes her deodorant line. And you know what? We are here today to talk about the care under our arms because, you know, I have 2 little ones at home, but they also need to now start wearing deodorant. Let's talk about the products. Welcome.
Yes,
you brought today. And I already smelled one of them. It smells amazing. Yes.
So we want to think about skincare and as a whole, right?
Yes.
Your entire body's covered with skin. And all of that needs care.
Yes.
So the 2 things that we most like to educate about the armpits in general is exfoliating and then a nice quality deodorant. The natural deodorant has a really bad reputation for letting us down. A lot of the natural deodorants that are out there are not so effective. So we came up with a formula and we've tweaked it over the years, and I'm very happy with the formula that we have now. And I love it when people come back for it over and over and over again. So definitely check our website. We get great reviews on it too.
Okay, wait, you said exfoliating too. Oh, tell me more, please.
Huge part of keeping that underarm skin healthy. So think about all of the things we put our underarms through, right? It's a very humid area. It's rubbing on our skin. It's rubbing on our clothes. It's constantly in motion. Like everything we do, even standing here, we're moving, and so that skin can be very easily irritated. So what we want to do is we want to use a nice gentle cleanser. But exfoliation is like super important to the skin in general, but especially the underarm skin, because we have deodorants, we're sweating under there all the time. We really want to be able to give that area a fresh renewal. And that's what a scrub is going to do.
Tell me more about the process. Is it pretty simple?
Yep. All of our scrubs are vitamin C and they're sugar-based. So really, really nice for just helping to maintain skin health.
Once a week or?
Once every week or 2.
Okay.
Right, so you think it's a sugar scrub, so you would put it in your hands and literally just, for 30 seconds once a week. So this is something you can do in the shower. People with sensitive skin, if you have boils, if you are an excessive sweater, all of these you can do. For your 3-year-old, your 5-year-old, your 100-year-old mom or grandmother, she can use these products.
Got it. Okay.
So we want to be able to create a nice skin biome, right? Healthy skin, and then protect that skin with a good deodorant.
And you said you just made these. I mean, you're talking.
I literally made these yesterday.
Wow.
So our thing is hand making things from scratch. We really want to be the natural alternative to all the things that are out here in the store that isn't so natural.
Why is that so important to you?
We created it because I bought a big name body wash and it smelled just like an industrial window cleaner. And it was a baby body wash.
Oh, gosh.
And it really did send me down a tunnel of exploration and research and really trying to figure out what is the skin, what does it need, and what are the rules now. And all of that research, I found that there aren't any. And I really wanted to be able to create something that was actually helpful, highly effective, open door, educating, great customer service.
Lots of products available at Carmel Soap Company. You just have to go check it out in person or on social media or the website as well. Thank you so much for sharing. And for more information, you can go to our website, salive.com, click the As Seen on SA Live tab, or scan the QR code on your screen. It's not just deodorant. She's got so many products and all made with love.
Yes.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
All right, we continue to warm things up very quickly. I just bumped up our high temperature to 83 because we're already at 78 here in San Antonio, 82 in Seguin, 77 the current temperature in Kerrville. Again, mostly sunny skies continuing today, warmer than average conditions, very spring-like this week. Then that next cold front should bring some relief by the end of the upcoming weekend.
We won't put the jackets away.
Exactly.
Keep them out. You never know. All right, thanks so much for watching.